Hello, baby brainers. Welcome back to We Forgot What We Were Saying. Today, we are going to have a little chat about something that was actually suggested to us a comment. It was a great suggestion. We're going to talk about baby registries and things adjacent to that.
Like, what do you actually need? What
do you need?
Yeah,
what crap shouldn't you buy? Yeah. I'm sort of in the initial stages of, putting together a registry and stuff like that. But I'm going to admit I've bought nothing for the baby.
Fair.
I've been waiting for end of financial year sales.
Fair, smart, do it.
Yeah.
And they're all coming around. I'm getting a lot of emails about end of financial year sales, so do it. I'm just going to say, just practically... Okay, so I come from a position where I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 5-year-old. So we're sort of past that bump of I know what we used. I know what we didn't use. I know how long we used things for. So I can definitely talk about it from that perspective. I do want to flag a couple of things though. Every baby's fucking different. So what my baby didn't use, yours might really love. So it is what it is. Also, I just want to flag as well that I didn't have a registry. I actually didn't announce my pregnancy at all to anyone unless I saw them. Yeah. Both pregnancies. So I didn't actually really want presents. Close friends obviously bought presents and what do you need? But in terms of coming up with a registry and a proper registry, I didn't do it. So I'm not going to talk anything about that process, but I can tell you about what I think is worthwhile buying and what I think is worthwhile hiring or waiting for. So... we can definitely talk about that.
I'm going to talk just quickly on the registry thing. I think in Australia, it's not that big of a thing. Can I just put that out there?
I think there are some people that do it though, because baby bunting and stuff do have a registry.
They do.
You can sign up and you can have your wish list and people buy shit.
You can, yes. So I've set up an Amazon one, and the only reason why I set that up is because I think it's a month before Bub is due, and then for 3 months after, you get 10% off your registry.
Yep.
Anything that's on your registry, even if it's not baby stuff.
Handy.
So I set that up so that I could take advantage of that sale or that discount if I wanted it. I didn't set one up with baby bunting because I was like, what the fuck's the point?
Yep. And they're very expensive.
They are super expensive. And we are planning on having a baby shower, and I do expect that people will bring some gifts.
See, I didn't even have a baby shower. So that that's another thing. I didn't even bother with that.
For the most part though, I don't think that my registry is really going to be helpful for other people. I set it up for me. Yeah. For organisation. So I'm right, this is the pram we're looking at. It's instead of me trying to remember the name of a pram that and then you know what they're like, Kat. There's brand name, and then it's got another name, and then this and that. And
same
this
as car seats. They're really fucking complicated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As I've been, going around to shops and doing my research on things and stuff like that, and picking out, okay, I think we want this pram and this cot and blah, blah, blah. Then I've been putting it on my list so that I have a reference point for when I'm ready to shop. And I've actually used a website called Baby List for that, which allows you to bring in links from other websites because places like Baby Bunting won't let you do that.
No,
Amazon doesn't let you do that. So, I just wanted somewhere where I could have the list,
keep track of things.
And
in terms of what you need and what you don't need though, look, it's hard because firstly you can get sort of really excited about people's stories. I remember people will be like, we really use this rocker thing a lot and da-da-da-da-da, and you're like, oh, we need it as well, and then your kid doesn't use it.
Fucking hates it.
But I think the bare minimum that I would say, and looking back, you do sort of over prepare, and then you're left with all this fucking junk that you're not going to use, which is what we're in that phase at the moment. I would also say that you need to factor in how many kids you're planning on having, because if you're planning on having 2, maybe 3 kids, I would say buy everything. I wouldn't hire things because you're going to store them and use them. But definitely you need a car seat if you've got a car. 100%.
Yeah.
Like you can't, like, how do you take baby home if you are driving and you don't have a car seat? You need a car seat.
They won't let you, not in Australia anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. For my first one, we hired a little capsule seat thing. And we hired one because the car capsule seat things, you only use them for up to 6 months. But I'd heard from a friend that they're invaluable because you can take them out of the car and like click them into the pram or carry them.
Yeah.
So if your baby's sleeping, instead of having to wake them up and get them out of the car seat, you can just take out the car seat. Well, I had a really kid that didn't sleep very well, so that wasn't that helpful. But we did hire one for 6 months. But what was helpful about that process was that the hire lady was giving us tips on good brands for car seats. She was saying that having so many different types of car seats and so many different brands, the most reliable one that holds up really well is Britax. So we ended up just buying Britax car seats, which we love. They're great. So I learnt that. I wouldn't necessarily, for my second, we didn't hire the car capsule again because we didn't really value it the first time around. Pram is a must. We got a hand-me-down because we were just like, there was one available, it's fine. We were in lockdown anyway, so, whatever. Yeah. But we ended up getting a hand-me-down. You need a cot or something for the baby to sleep in. Again, we used a hand-me-down because it was like, it's fine, it works. Ended up being that neither of my kids liked sleeping in the cot, so it was barely used. Like, we actually got more value out of a mattress on the floor than we did out of the cot because my kids just didn't like the cot. But you need something for the baby to sleep in.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, you got to think of, I think bathing, you can't, if you don't have a bath and you want a baby bath, they can work really well. But again, it's limited with how long you're going to use those for. Theoretically, you can get away with just and I was like, babies need to have baths. You can stick them in the sink or you can give them a sponge down. I always thought babies love baths, but babies, my boys were just screaming whenever you put them in the bath as a baby. They hate it because it gets quite cold for them. Yeah, And you can put wet a cloth or a swaddle or something and put on their chest to keep them a bit warm. Yeah. I'm looking back and I'm like, you could just wipe down your baby. You actually don't need to put them in the bath when they're newborns if you don't want to. So there's a lot of flexible things there. Bottles and pump, I would say, because I come from a background of I wanted to breastfeed. My milk supply was so low that I actually had to bottle feed most of the time for my kids. And I did have to go through that sort of pumping thing. I wasn't planning on using bottles or a pump. I was just you just put them on your boob. But that doesn't work for everyone. So I would say maybe not necessarily buy one straight away, but have one that you can easily get in a short period of time. Yeah. Because you will find that when you need it, you need it straight away. So if you've got a pump in mind or you've got someone that's, got a pump they're going to pass on to you, whatever it happens to be, have one as a backup plan that is easily accessible at a short notice. Also, a big thing that people don't factor in is climate control. I had one baby at the end of autumn, so going into winter, and I had another baby at the end of spring going into summer. Climate control is huge. They can't sleep properly if they're cold or too hot. So people don't factor that in. So really warm clothes or cool clothes or swaddles or whatever. Climate control is actually something you really need to factor in. Oh, another thing that people are really and we had 3 of these, is carriers or those swaddle type, those, those material ones that you wrap around. I had one of those. Yeah. Both my kids hated being in carriers. So I tried 3 different types of carriers. So it really depends on, but then there's people that are I used a carrier for until they were 2
years.
So they used it for years. So it really depends. Right. But that's where I'd say try things out. And this is where potentially also I would be looking at things like carriers, things like baby baths, things like you need to change somewhere to change them. I actually found it was much more practical to have a change mat on the floor, so you're not worried about the baby rolling off or anything. So you don't actually need a piece of furniture. You can actually have just a change mat on the floor. Yeah, things like that. I would even look at hand-me-downs because in the scheme of things, you go, okay, I wanted to have my own nursery and I want it to look like this and whatever. But in the scheme of things, you might only use some of these for 3 months. So some of them is such short-lived that you can get some secondhand off like Marketplace or whatever in really good condition, and you're only going to use it for like just such a small fraction of
time.
Yeah, that it's sort of like, what's the point of spending $200 on this thing when we're actually not going to use it? What we probably use the longest, like we're still using the pram. We've got 2 prams now, so 1 single pram, 1 double pram. Luckily, we got like the change table has gone, like the change mat that has gone as of like 6 months ago when my second was toilet trained. But those are probably the lingering things. But yeah, look, it's hard. Yes, you, like I said, you do want pretty things and nice things, but in the reality, you get stuck with all this stuff that you then go, what are we doing with this? Car seats are great, prams are great, change table stuff, because you're going to use those for at least a couple of years. But everything else, and clothes, oh my God, baby clothes.
They grow out of it
so quickly. So I would say you want to have basics, but you want to be able to layer things, because you can't use a lot of blankets and stuff in cots. So layer. So find things that like singlets, tops that they can layer and warm things, so you can sort of control their temperature.
So don't get dicky things with pom-poms and bits sticking out of them, because it's going to be awkward.
Oh, and baby shoes, like little slippers and stuff, and little socks are fine, but like,
it's so fucking cute.
We had to get rid of so many baby shoes because my kids, they were actually walking fairly early, and the thing is, shoes actually hinder their walking ability. So unless they're really practical, they need to walk around in like just bare feet or socks or whatever. And so all these cute baby shoes, my kids also had really giant feet, so like they grew out of them, so we barely used them. So yeah, I would really focus on the practical things. Get a good quality car seat, pram, change mat, bedding, some form of like bed, but everything else sort of can come. Oh, and monitor. You want to monitor, because if they're going to be sleeping in a different room, or you're going to sneak out, like the monitor is really helpful. So that's where I'd probably put my focus. But all the other fluff and all the other optional things, I don't think it's super necessary. And you really have to learn what your baby is interested in. Because if your baby's interested in books, or rolling around in the mat, or like my first hated being on the floor. So you put him on the floor, he would just scream. And I've learned that he's, probably because he's a bit neurospicy, so it is what it is. We've figured that out now. But like my second liked being on the floor. So we could have like dangly things that would interest him, but my first didn't have a bar of it. So it just really depends on the kid. But yeah, the breastfeeding thing throws you a lot, because you're like, do I need all these things? I don't want to buy them because I'm hoping for the best. But you can hope for the best and then also have a backup plan for the worst. Because I fully intended to be fully breastfeeding my kids, and I fully breastfed none of them, not by choice. So those kind of things, and a sterilizer as well, if you're going to do bottles or dummies, which are like pacifiers if you're
from America.
And also pram is stroller if you're from America as well. So.
I have decided, so there's a few things that I've been looking at buying secondhand on Facebook Marketplace, right? And I want to have a discussion around this, because I do have some secondhand things, which I'll talk about in a sec, but there's 2 things in particular that I've been sort of looking at on a regular basis. So a bedside like co-sleeper bassinet thing. There was a particular one that I really liked at Baby Bunting. The fucking thing's like nearly $500, right? We both like it, really sturdy. We tried some of the cheaper ones as well. We're like, we're not spending that much money on it. It's ridiculous. So we tried some of the others and we're like, wait, this is shit or that's shit or whatever. It's not as good as the other one. So we both kind of agreed, like, oh crap, why do we have to like the expensive one? So I decided to have a look on Facebook Marketplace. Now I can find it, right? But it's an older model, so it doesn't have wheels, so I can't move it around the house easily. I have to like physically pick it up and carry it. And also because they've been used and you can't take them fully apart to wash them. There's like certain sections of the panels that like you can see that they're grubby. And that's okay, because bubs are grubs. Like it's fine, And I was talking to Chris about this and I'm like, well, we can get one, but like we're only going to get a couple of $100 off it, because apparently in Perth people think that their old used baby stuff is still worth a small mint. But also we may be faced with having something that's kind of grubby and that we can't deep clean. Like, we can wipe it down, but we can't shove it in the washing machine. And Chris was like, fuck that. Just get a new one. Like,
Can I interject with that? Because I've got experience with and without one. So we borrowed one from a friend. Our friend bought a Schmick one, and they've had 2 kids. Yeah. So I've also learnt now that my first is quite an anxious kid and he's very like clingy. So we had him in the sort of coast, like the side sleeper thing that you're talking about. And it was a good quality one, but we borrowed it from our friend. He slept really well in there. But again, we didn't use it for very long because both my kids were moving early. So Finny was crawling at 4 months old and rolling over at 2 months.
Which means they've got to go,
Which means they can't be in it, right?
Yes.
So Sebastian was crawling at 6 months and rolling over at maybe like 3 months or something. Yeah. So we only borrowed it from our friends for about 4 months. And then with Finny, we didn't borrow it all because we were like, and also an issue that we had was that when we had Sebastian sleeping in it, he got so close to being next to me, so used to getting next to me that he didn't transition to the cot. He slept okay at night until he transitioned to the cot, and he hated it because he wanted to be right next to me. So we found it was actually a detriment. It was good at the start because you got your baby right next to you. But it was a detriment for us with Sebastian. And then we didn't bother with Finny. We're getting him straight in the cot because we want him to actually be sort of semi-independent. But then what happened was Finny wouldn't have been able to go in there anyway because he was moving too early.
Much. Interesting.
Too early. Like he was moving so early. Like you see babies that like, oh, my baby's not crawling and it's like 9 months old. My baby was crawling. He was like a tiny little thing and he was crawling across the room at 4 months old. So ultimately, we borrowed one from a friend, and then the second time around we didn't bother borrowing it because we didn't actually. It was a hindrance the first time, and we really would have only used it like 3 months the second time. So this is where I'm saying like sometimes you're like, oh, this is a great idea, and I really want to do it. But in the scheme of things, you use it for
don't
such
see the
a
forest
short
for the trees.
period of time.
I know what you're talking about.
That's where you like. We've even done things like bought those like rocking chair things. Those like strap them in and they rock themselves and stuff. Neither of my like I think Finny used it for like 1 week. Like no, they didn't use it. So it ends up being like in the scheme of things, a cot is a better investment if your kid's like a proper cot. And I know you have to eventually get there anyway. So for me, I didn't feel like if I spent like $500 on that sort of side sleeper bassinet thing, I would have been annoyed.
Maybe I will reconsider that.
It just depends, like, because your kid might really like it. Like, again, Sebastian really liked it, but to the point where he just wanted to sleep next to me all the time and didn't refuse to go in his cot.
Yeah. See, I'm thinking about it from a perspective of like, I don't want the first few months of baby sleeping at home to be me getting out of, because I hope to breastfeed as well. I don't want to be having to physically get up out of bed like, every
problem is though
2 to 3 hours to go and get them out of the cot.
Yeah. We had the cot in our room. So it's not as if we had a cot in a different room. We moved the cot into our bedroom.
Yes.
So they were in the room with us. Now, here's another thing I want to flag. When you've got little bub, so under 6 months old, yes, it is convenient to then get your baby out of the side bassinet thing and just stay in bed. But that's also how babies die when you fall asleep.
Fall asleep on them. I know.
So it is best practice to have a comfy chair. Have it like a lamp that's got like a red light or something. Yeah, get a chair, comfy chair, and actually get up with Bub and sit in a chair and do it, because like you hear devastating stories about people who are like, I put baby in bed with me, breastfeeding, fell asleep.
Yeah. And
the worst happened. So it seems convenient, but it's actually sort of better to get into a routine of sort of getting up. Getting up. Yeah. So, and it will, and there'll be ebbs and flows with like how often you need to get up. Like, some people will be like, oh, my baby's sleeping so well. And it's like, just you wait. And then they hit like 6 months and they sleep like shit. So there's ebbs and flows, but it is a sort of one of those areas where don't make it too comfy during the night, because then risks, that's where
you
issues
can
happen.
fall asleep. Yeah. I understand where you're coming from.
What I would also do, if you're concerned about that though, what I would also do is get a pump. Make sure you have milk prepped, and then every second feed or something, you get Chris to do it. Warm up the bottle and do it.
I talked to Mum about like her breastfeeding journey, and I know that my sister didn't have a particularly difficult time either. Mum struggled with her first, but she told me like she felt she was very young. So she was, I think 17, 18 when she had my brother and sister, and then she was older when she had me. She said when she had her first two, she felt very like the hospital was just intervening too much, and she wasn't just allowed to sort of just do what felt natural to her. Whereas when she had me, she was like, nah, fuck this. She wouldn't let the hospital basically touch her or me. She was like, let me do it. It's not my first rodeo. I can do it. And she said it was like a breeze. It was super easy. So I'm kind of hoping that in that regard, I will have some, that'll be on my side in terms of like breast milk coming through, but we don't know that.
Also, I want to flag, so my mum, so I've got an older sister, and when she was born, my mum, they left a bit of placenta, it broke off, so she actually she was hemorrhaging blood, right? So she lost a lot of blood, and they had to then like figure out what it was and sort it out and whatever. But because she lost a lot of blood, her milk didn't come through with my sister. So my sister was mainly formula fed, even though she tried everything. Same situation happened for me. Like I lost blood with my first, and my milk supply just didn't come in. I had to get on medication. I had to do all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I was doing that whole annoying feeding, pumping, and then topping up kind of thing. And that whole process, like it'd take like an hour and a half each time. It was a real nightmare. And I did that for, I think, 5 months until my kids started getting into solids and was just like, you're too much work. Like this is too much work. Yeah. I just want bottle and I want solids. So I tried really hard with my first. Now, my mum had me, and the pregnancy, like the labour went a lot easier. So there was no blood loss. And she said she had enough milk to feed all the kids in the ward. It was like a lot of milk coming. And I was like, okay, cool. That's going to be my second situation as well. I'm not going to have to worry about bottles and formula and all that kind of shit because hopefully it's going to be easier. Wrong. It was the same scenario. And I lost more blood, and I also couldn't get the breast milk in. Now, I did get on the medication, but the problem was having a 2-year-old and a newborn baby. I didn't have enough time to spend the hour and a half, 2 hours doing the feed, pump, top up, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So I only pumped much less than I did with my first. And I think I gave up after about 2 months. So it's situational as well. I think, so it's you don't know what's going to cause it, and you think it's going to be great, but at the same time, you don't actually know. So it's a lot more complicated than, what it seems. It seems like we should just be able to feed our kids. Like it's easy,
but it's not the case. It's not the case. And I have, your story has been one that's sort of stuck in my mind. And I have another friend who it just didn't work out for her. She tried so hard. She did everything right, but it just didn't work. And she said that she felt that the issue that went wrong for her was she was let down by not enough intervention early on with a pump. Okay, so the doctors kept telling her, just keep feeding her, just keep feeding her. Like, your milk will come in eventually. And then by the time that they were like, oh no, your milk's like, you're not producing enough milk. Yeah. It was too fucking late.
Yeah, I think having a pump is important for that reason. Like
I'm going to buy one straight off the bat.
And also the thing is, even if your milk does come in and you're breastfeeding, you may also want a break. You may also want to sleep in. So you may also want to have extra milk put aside.
That's right.
So and you can freeze it and it lasts months. So, so I tried with the pump fairly early. Maybe it was like day 3 or something with my first. But I found what helped was being on medication, and quite a high dose of medication. But again, it was a lot of work, and it was like a lot of work for like 30 mils or something. Like, it was like ridiculous for what it was, that it was just like, I was like, this is what I want to try to do. And even the maternal child health nurse are like, oh, you're doing everything right. This should like kick into place. It just didn't. It just didn't.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
And it just doesn't for some women.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
Like,
So
it's not anyone's fault, but I think like obviously women take it to heart because
it's hard.
You're gonna feel disappointed.
But also, what's really tough is when you are, and again, this could be a breastfeeding chat, but when you're also then reliant on formula, because this was around the time of like COVID and formula shortages and stuff, and you're like, fuck, like if I can't find formula next week, my baby has no food. Like it's just like it's really stressful with that idea.
Yeah.
But another thing that I forgot to mention that you do need, and this is also another discussion that we can have in a separate podcast, but you obviously need nappies and diapers.
Oh, yes. I was going to mention that as well.
You also need to decide, do you want sort of
cloth
or disposable?
The funny thing about having the baby shower, sometimes I wonder why I even suggested that we do it. But now that I've suggested it, people are like excited about it. We're going to go ahead. I think it'll be fun. I feel like if I didn't do it, I'd probably regret not doing it. So
I didn't do it. I don't regret it, but I also hate attention. So I hate attention.
Yeah.
And if people fuss over me, I'm like, shh, fuck off. Like I hate it. So I don't regret it all.
I more want to just have like, the gathering of the people, but like not expecting a lot of gifts from a baby shower, more as like a social gathering, because Chris's family, like, they gave us cash for the baby. They were like, go buy what you need.
Yeah.
So, and we've had that sitting in a bank account ready for when we're like ready to make the purchases. Same with my mum. Instead of being like, oh, we know you need a pram, so we're going to go and buy you a pram or whatever. They're like, take the cash and get what you want.
Buy your own,
So, like we've picked out the pram, the cot, the car seat. I picked out my breast pump. Thought I picked out a bedside bassinet, but not sure if we're going to go there now. We'll just see.
Problem is though, like sometimes you buy things and then you think, okay, this is going to be easy to resell. And it's good in theory.
And it's not.
But it's much harder to resell than you think. Like, and we're stuck with that. We're in the phase now that we're getting rid of a lot of stuff. And like I had to have the discussion with Darren the other week, and I'm like, are we done? Like, are we done with kids?
Yeah.
What's like, do we keep things? What's the deal?
Yeah.
And the problem is that
because it's taking up
space. It takes up so much space, and we're maxing out with space, and we're like, why are we working around all these things, and why are we struggling? That in our garage we just got these like all this stuff that we don't need.
You've got a baby corner.
Yeah, with the sort of chance that maybe we have a third. And then we were talking about it, and we're like, this is like we've got things that cost a lot of money. Like, they cost a lot of money.
Oh yes, it's so fucking expensive, man.
Yeah, but then
even the cheap stuff is expensive.
Yeah, I feel like they put a baby tax on everything. But yeah,
they do. They 100% they do.
Yeah, so we ended up coming up with the decision that, like, I honestly, and this could be a chat for another session in depth, but I honestly am like, there's like 5% chance that we're having another one. I want the window open, but I'm not planning for it because I do feel like our house is quite overwhelming, and I feel like I'm a better mother individually to the boys than I am when they're together and they're feral. So I'm like, adding a third to that, I actually feel like I'm going to be struggling more and I'm going to be worse of a mum. So I'm like, I don't really want to, but I also don't want to rule out the opportunity if I change my mind.
No.
So, but what we decided was like, let's get rid of all the stuff that's not meaningful to us and just cop it as a loss if we need to buy everything again. Like, it is what it is. We'll go marketplace, we'll whatever. But if we wanted to do that again, that's just, we would prefer the space and the less clutter and the stuff everywhere. And we just need to sort of be mindful that that's a thing that we have to go down the path and do it again if we wanted to do that again, which so far, at the moment I'm like, fucking no.
There is something I want to touch on. let's talk about baby clothes.
Yep.
Because I see people ask this question so much. Like, how much baby clothing do I need for, you know, like a newborn to like 3 months, blah, blah, blah. I feel like a lot of people say a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But one of the like main things that people say is when it comes to like the really, really, really like tiny newborn baby stuff, definitely have some, but not too much. And I'm like, well, fucking how much is too much?
Look, I would say it depends on how quickly your turnaround with laundry can be.
Right, okay.
Look, it's hard though, because again, when babies are little, they're usually wrapped up in like swaddles and stuff anyway.
Blankets and stuff.
So
they
you
don't
actually,
get dirty.
they don't get dirty. Like, when they're a bit older and they're like vomiting a bit and they're starting to eat solids and there's like food everywhere, you might need to go through like 2 or 3 outfits in a day, especially if there's like leaking nappies or whatever happens. So when they're a bit older, you actually need a lot more. But when they're newborn, like I would probably plan going, okay, I'd say you want like at least you want about a week's worth of clothes. And I would say, unless you're finding that your baby is really dirty or vomiting a lot or whatever it happens to be.
Nappy overflow.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Like that.
Yeah, so I would find that, you probably want a week's worth of like at least 5, 6 outfits, but also don't make them fancy. Like, you want them to be like the onesies, the really basic onesies, and then get singlets as well, because if they're cold, because babies, they can't regulate the temperature, you might want to put a singlet underneath them and then the onesie over the top. But I would probably say a week's worth, and then just factor in that if you're going through a few at a time, you want to make sure that you can do clean and dry laundry fairly quickly. So if you've got that ability, like, you really don't need many clothes.
So I have looked at clothes. I haven't bought many, but I've bought a few little bits here and there. And when I'm looking at baby clothes, I'm like, oh my God, they're so cute. Look, little outfits, like a little cardigan, little pants, some trousers. But I've decided that for as long as I physically can, I'm going to dress my baby in stuff like
those
this,
kind of things.
Yeah.
They're super cute. So you're not going to get much use of that in Perth, though.
No, I'm not. No, there's like a month where you can use this. So what you guys can't see is I'm holding up this little like bear onesie to Kat. I have started knitting a little like rabbit one.
Yeah, cute.
Which is adorable. But yeah, I said to Chris, like, there's going to come a day where our kid is going to want to, like, they'll express themselves, you know, they're going to want to wear things that interest them. They're going to want
But that's more like when they're like 2 or something. You've got a bit of time for that.
Yeah, but until then,
this
is our baby.
It is, but also, I just want to flag though, yes, it is your baby, but at the same time, some of those really cutesy clothes are really impractical.
Absolutely.
What ends up winning over, like, what I was reaching for more was the things that they were like appropriate temperature, easy to get on and off, because it also depends on your baby. My first baby hated getting changed because, like, the temperature change, he would just lose the plot. So as soon as we could get him dressed as quick as possible, so we went for the easiest things. Often it was like the onesies. But then with my second, I noticed that it was so much easier changing babies if they're in like leggings and long sleeve top.
Oh, than the one, right. Because you can leave the top on.
You leave the top on and take the pants off.
Yes,
so it just really depends. So I would have probably a week's worth of like onesies and singlets and stuff that you need. But then figure out from there, what do you use in high rotation, and buy those in like the next size up, because you don't know, like for my first, I never put him in like leggings and top. It was always onesies. But then I just found that with my second, I'm like, this is so much easier because I'm not having to get like battle with the like zip or the press studs or whatever.
And the buttons and
also what you can do is you can then like check their nappy as well. Oh, poop in there, let's change you. Whereas you're like, oh, is it poo? I don't know. I have to get you undressed to find that out. And it was a real pain in the ass. So it just depends on what you find convenient. And convenience always overrides style. Always.
Oh, yes. Yeah. 100%. I do agree with that. And even not having my own children, but watching, you know, my sister's kids and friends, like, yes.
But also, if you want to get cute stuff, I recommend doing it from around the 6-month age, because they then last approximately 6 months. So when you first go the first few sizes, it's like 1 month, a couple months, and they grow out of the sizes. But once you get into like the 6 months, it goes from like 6 months to a year, and you've at least got 6 months of like use out of them. But again, it's seasonal as well. Like, and the problem was my boys,
of course,
they were 2.5 years apart, so they were opposite seasons. So I had to rebuy a whole bunch of stuff because the baby stuff for Finny was warm weather stuff. The baby stuff for Sebastian was cold weather stuff. And then of course you have to, when you are buying in like a few months at a time or 6 months at a time, the seasons are completely swapped. So it's only when they were over 1 that you start getting like almost a year's worth out of stuff, and you have the full rotation of winter and summer and all in between. But so that's where I found that investing in the cute stuff or the interesting stuff from around that point, like 6 months, maybe 1 year, definitely, you get a lot more use out of.
Well, I bought this in a significantly larger size. This is 12 to 18 months.
Yep.
As you can see. So I bought that knowing like newborn bub is going to come for me, like it's going to be the end of winter. Mm-hmm. No, sorry.
You're going to be in spring.
Spring. It's going to be spring.
So, but also 12 to 18 months, that's going to be coming into summer for you.
Oh, fucking fuck.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I didn't do my maths right, did I?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
shit.
the fluffy stuff,
right, well,
you need to then get...
Let me just put on my list
an 18 to 24 month
baby
one.
Has to be... No, I'll just plan the next baby.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fair.
Make the timing different. Yeah.
But it is annoying because you have to really, like, you have to factor that in, and that's something that sometimes you don't foresee until you start buying shit and you're like, oh, I've got these cute things, but they never got worn because they were the wrong season.
I think, again, like clothing, I mean, every time I go out, I see cute baby stuff and I'm like, oh, I want to buy it. But I'm going to wait until it's like really close to Bub coming, because I know I've already had people say to me, oh, I bought some cute things for Bub in terms of clothing. And I'm like, okay, don't get your hopes up, because you don't know if they're buying like little baby or like...
Yeah, wait until your baby shower, see what you get, but then just really go super basic with one, like newborn onesies. And you'll even be surprised at how quickly you grow out of those newborn ones, because it's like a month or something and then you have to get into the next size. So it's only 1 month.
I may not even buy any like newborn or tiny baby stuff.
Buy a couple, like 3, and just keep washing
Chris's
them.
sister gave us a whole bag of stuff. So, you know, and their bub, I mean, they've just had another baby and grown out of it really quickly. You know, I don't want to get carried away with the crazy like mum buying shit. Do you know what I mean? And I don't mind spending money on things that I know hopefully will get to have another baby. And, you know, I don't mind buying something new that will then be carried on for a second use. But I don't want to get carried away. Like, for example, I said to Chris, we're not buying a change table. We'll get a mat because everyone suggests a mat, and I do want a nice big chest of drawers, and ideally we'll get a chest of drawers that is wide enough we could sit a changing mat on top of it.
Just be careful. Sorry, keep going.
Turns out one of Chris's friends had a beautiful like wooden change table in their garage, and they were going to get rid of it, and they sent us a picture, said, do you want it? And I said, well, look, when it's free, yes, but it's not something that I was going to spend money on, because I didn't think we would use it very often.
If you get a hand-me-down, it's totally fine, but also it's just, again, depends on your baby, because my babies were moving so early that I couldn't put them on a change table. Yeah, so I ended up just having it's actually this really cool sort of like really sturdy change mat. So it wasn't like a flimsy mat. It's like one you wipe down. It's really good. Yeah. I just had that on the floor, And you can have like toys
Yes.
and stuff there. And I had a basket with all the like the nappies and stuff in it. But I just found it was much safer because if they roll off to go do something, you're not getting a head injury. They're just rolling onto the floor,
That's
which is they're on the floor.
That's why I said I wanted a mat over anything, because like if we want, like if Bub is happy being on a high up surface and is still with a nappy change, Freya, stop barking, then we can use a chest of drawers rather than spending $500 or $600 on a fucking changing like table, or Bub goes on the floor. And like I don't know if I'm going to be the type of mum who wants to go into the nursery to change every single nappy, or if I'm going to be the type of mum who's like playing with baby and then baby needs a nappy change, let's just do it right here.
Well, I had the change corner in our living room because I was like, I need to watch my 2.5-year-old and he's hectic and I'm not going to then disappear just to it was just easier. So
that's right.
Often practical stuff trumps. And also like you're talking about wanting the little bassinet thing and you want it to have wheels so you can move it. Sometimes you're like you might find that your baby won't sleep in the lounge room where there's light coming in and sounds happening. Like it's one of those things where it's like, it's ideal to have this, but you don't know because they might not actually use it for that instance.
And I guess you won't know until Bub's here and you try it. Hey,
exactly right.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. We do hope you enjoyed it. I feel like we could talk about this sort of topic and just like you just go into more and more products for baby, and maybe we will revisit it again in the future. Maybe we could do that just before Bub comes and I can tell you what I did end up buying and we can revisit it and critique my baby list. But we do hope you enjoyed it, and we appreciate the suggestions. If you guys do have any more suggestions, feel free to let us know and we'll catch you in the next one.
Excellent.
Bye.